Force yourself to be consistent. Everything falls into place. You've been lied to. They told you success comes from talent, from waiting for the right time, from feeling ready. But what if I told you that none of that matters? That the single greatest difference between who wins and who watches from the sidelines isn't brilliance, luck, or even motivation. It's consistency. Ruthless, boring, powerful consistency. Not sexy, not shareable, but unstoppable. Because when you force yourself to show up, even when it's hard, even when it's silent, even when no one's clapping, something inside you changes. And that's the part no one talks about. The part where self-discipline rewires your brain, where small steps reshape your destiny, where momentum builds not from inspiration, but from intention. This isn't about hype. It's about habits, not motivation, but movement. And if you're tired of starting over, tired of feeling stuck, then maybe it's time to stop waiting. Because when you force yourself to be consistent, everything else begins to fall into place. Consistency beats everything. He wakes up tired. The sky is gray. Motivation is nowhere to be found. But still, he shows up. Why? Because he's learned the secret most people never do. The ones who win are not the ones who feel like it. They're the ones who do it anyway. Consistency is not an emotion. It's a decision, a quiet, uncelebrated decision repeated daily. While others are waiting for motivation to strike like lightning, the consistent ones create it through action. That's the paradox. Motion breeds momentum. And momentum, well, that's when everything starts to change. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's just a rhythm, a steady pulse, the repetition of effort, again and again. Like the writer who opens the laptop every morning at 6 a.m., even when the words don't come. Or the athlete who laces up their shoes before the sun rises, even when their body protests. That kind of routine rewires your brain. It reprograms your mental patterns until the action becomes identity. And when your identity shifts, when you stop trying to become and start being, that's when resistance starts to lose its grip. Funny how the simplest truth is the one most overlooked. If you just don't quit, you'll outlast the ones who started faster, looked stronger, or felt more inspired. But here's the twist. To build discipline, you must first understand that discipline is freedom. And freedom, well, that's where we go next. Self-discipline is the bridge. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's the foundation of power. Most people hear the word and flinch, imagining rules, sacrifice, a cold, joyless routine. But that's the illusion. True discipline isn't about restriction, it's about liberation. When you develop the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel, you take back control from your impulses. That's freedom. It's in the small acts. Getting up with the alarm instead of hitting snooze, journaling 5 minutes before bed, or choosing a home-cooked meal over fast food. That self-leadership is formed. Repetition turns these moments into patterns, and patterns become your personal system. And once you have a system, you're no longer relying on willpower, you're relying on structure. I remember a man who told me he used to wait for the right time to start reading. He never finished a single book. Then one day, he set a timer for 10 minutes and read a single chapter. Every day, no exceptions. 6 months later, he had gone through more than 20 books, and more importantly, he had become someone who reads. That's the bridge. Action builds identity, and discipline is what gets you across. But before you can cross that bridge, you must first recognize the traps that keep most people stuck on the wrong side. The invisible enemies of progress disguised as logic. Procrastination and perfectionism are traps. Procrastination is not laziness. That's what people say to feel better about it, but it's not the truth. Procrastination is fear wearing a clever disguise. Fear of failure. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of starting something you might not finish. And perfectionism? That's its partner in crime. It whispers, wait until it's just right. Until you're just right. But here's the trap. That moment never comes. You sit there planning, tweaking, rethinking, and nothing gets done. Momentum dies in hesitation. But if you lower the bar, if you allow yourself to start small, start messy, start imperfect, you beat the trap. Try this. Next time you're stuck, set a timer for just 5 minutes. Tell yourself, I only have to do this for 5 minutes. Write 1 paragraph. Do 2 push-ups. Record 1 minute of audio. You'll be amazed at what happens next. Because once you begin, resistance fades. The brain re-engages. Progress, however tiny, feels good. That's how you chip away at perfectionism and silence procrastination, not by fighting it, but by outsmarting it. And once you learn to do that consistently, you'll start to crave structure. You'll want something more powerful than motivation. You'll want a system. Build systems, not just habits. Habits get you started. Systems keep you going. That's the real difference between the person who succeeds and the one who falls off after 2 weeks. A habit says, I'll try to wake up early. A system says, my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., and I leave my phone across the room, so I have to get out of bed to turn it off. See the difference? Systems are deliberate. They remove friction. They don't rely on feeling motivated. They rely on structure, clarity, and design. It's like building a train track. Once it's set, the train can run, no decision-making needed. That's how consistency is sustained long-term. Let's say you want to write a book. Don't just say, I'll write more. Build a system. 30 minutes every morning, at the same place, same time, with your coffee ready. That repetition becomes rhythm. That rhythm becomes a routine. And that routine becomes your identity. The system protects your goal when life gets chaotic. Because let's be honest, it will. Distractions will come. Resistance will knock. But your system? It will be your armor. Still, even the best system is only as strong as the environment it lives in. And if that environment is working against you, even the most disciplined person will crumble. Your environment shapes you. Try growing a strong tree in toxic soil. It won't happen. The same goes for your goals. You cannot grow into the person you're meant to be if your environment is constantly pulling you backwards. If your room is cluttered, your phone buzzing every 2 minutes, and your circle of influence is filled with complainers and procrastinators, you're fighting a losing battle. The environment is the silent sculptor of behavior. You don't rise above it, you adapt to it. That's why real change doesn't start with a vision board. It starts with your surroundings. Clean your workspace. Organize your mornings. Unfollow content that numbs your brain. Place your workout clothes where you can see them. Keep the book you're reading on the table instead of buried in a drawer. These are small adjustments, but they lead to big outcomes. Even the people you talk to daily influence your trajectory. If you're always around those who make excuses, guess what? You'll start making them, too. But get around doers, people who are building, learning, evolving, and their momentum becomes contagious. But even in the right environment, there's a hidden force that sneaks in the moment you try to start something meaningful, and that force has a name. Master resistance. Resistance is sneaky. It doesn't come with a warning sign. It comes dressed as logic. You're tired. Do it later. It's not the right time. You need to research more before starting. Sound familiar? That's resistance talking. And here's the truth. It never goes away. It doesn't care how disciplined or talented you are. It just evolves with you. The moment you move towards something meaningful, resistance shows up like a shadow. But like a shadow, it loses power the second you shine light on it through action. You don't need to feel ready to act. You need to act to feel ready. That's the shift. Instead of waiting for clarity, create clarity through movement. 5 minutes of focused effort can break a 3-day mental block. Resistance thrives in vagueness, so make your actions specific. Not, I'll work on my business, but I'll outline one product idea between 9 and 9:30 a.m. Train yourself to recognize the voice of resistance and override it with structured action. And once you learn to outmaneuver that force daily, something deeper begins to shift, not just in your behavior, but in your mindset itself. Mindset is the foundation. Everything you build, every habit, every action, every result, rests on one thing: your mindset. It's the filter through which you interpret struggle, failure, and even success. With a weak mindset, obstacles become excuses. With a strong one, they become fuel. Most people live by the phrase, I'll try. But trying gives you an exit. Winners don't try, they commit. They say, I will, even when the outcome is uncertain. That simple shift rewires your identity. And when identity shifts, behavior follows. Someone with a growth mindset sees failure as feedback, not final judgment. They don't say, I failed, so I'm not good enough. They say, I failed, so I learned. That alone changes the trajectory of a life. You don't need to be perfect. You need to believe you can evolve. And belief is a muscle. You grow it through repetition. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you reinforce that belief. And with each repetition, you step closer to the real transformation. But here's the kicker: it doesn't happen in leaps. It happens in small, almost invisible steps. The power of small steps. People dream of quantum leaps, but what actually changes a life is the power of small, consistent steps. Not the overnight transformation, but the daily decision to do one right thing. One paragraph written, one soda skipped, one phone call made. That's how you build momentum. And momentum, once rolling, carries a force far greater than motivation ever could. The magic isn't in doing everything. It's in doing something every single day, no matter how small. Because small steps repeated over time lead to big outcomes. I once coached someone who felt stuck for years. She kept waiting for the perfect plan to start her business. One day, I told her to forget the plan and just write one email introducing herself to a potential client. That single step led to a reply, which led to a call, which led to her first paying client. Today, she's full-time. That's the truth. Perfection slows you down, but progress, tiny, imperfect progress, moves mountains. And when you repeat those steps long enough, you're no longer just building progress, you're building mastery. Repetition builds mastery. Mastery isn't built in moments of inspiration. It's built in quiet, unseen repetitions. The kind you do when no one's watching. The kind you don't post about. While most people start strong and fade, the masters repeat. Over and over. Not because they're obsessed, but because they understand something most ignore. Repetition isn't boring, it's building. It's through repetition that skills sharpen, focus deepens, and identity transforms. You don't become a writer by writing when you feel like it. You become a writer by writing even when you don't. Think about a musician practicing the same scale hundreds of times. Not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. Each stroke, each note, each word typed, each rep in the gym, it's all a deposit in the bank of long-term excellence. Eventually, you stop thinking and start flowing. Actions that once felt forced become instinct. And when your discipline becomes automatic, that's when results show up. But repetition demands one thing above all else: ownership. Because if you don't take full responsibility, you'll always find a reason to stop. Take full responsibility. Here's the turning point in every transformation: the moment you stop blaming. Not your past, not your boss, not the timing, not your childhood, not the market, you. The second you take full responsibility, everything shifts. You reclaim power. Because as long as your results depend on something or someone outside of you, you stay stuck. Responsibility isn't about guilt, it's about ownership. It's the bold declaration that says, if it's to be, it's up to me. That mindset turns victims into leaders, wanderers into warriors. I've met people who've had every reason to give up: trauma, failure, poverty. But the ones who rise are the ones who say, it happened, and now I choose what happens next. That's the fire of personal autonomy. That's where self-trust is born. No more waiting. No more permission slips. You decide, you act, and you adjust. And when you pair that level of responsibility with the consistency, discipline, and systems we've built up until now, that's when everything begins to fall into place. Let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting for the right time? How many dreams have been paused, postponed, or buried under the weight of excuses that sounded reasonable? If you're honest, you know the answer. But here's the truth: the life you want, it's not hiding, it's waiting. Waiting for you to decide, to act, to persist. So now the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next? Will you be the one who keeps showing up, even after the excitement fades? Will you be the one who breaks the pattern of quitting, not with a loud revolution, but with a quiet decision repeated daily? Because that's where the shift happens. Not when you feel strong, but when you choose strength even in your weakest moments. And if you're ready to live that kind of transformation, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join this movement of consistent action and relentless personal growth. This is just the beginning. Let's build the version of you that never backs down.